there, and welcome to Music College TV. I'm Richie Blake, and we're coming to you live from the southwest of England here on this beautiful sunny Sunday afternoon. So we're going to try out a bit of live streaming on you guys. It's our intention to do some more of this over the coming weeks and months and get you guys involved. So today we've set up, I've been invited up here, we've got a couple of tracks to record, and this session is all about getting you guys involved with this process. You know, I've been thrown a couple of chord charts in front of me, which I've managed to spill some tea on, so great start. And the process today is to basically track with my bass guitar a couple of these tunes. So how can you guys get involved? Well, we've got Twitter, we've got other forms of social media, and of course, because we are streaming live on YouTube, get involved, post some comments on, and hopefully we can answer a couple of your questions. We're going to be around for the next sort of 15 to 20 minutes, so hopefully stick around, enjoy it, and hopefully speak to you. Right. And then I'm going to sort of dissect some of the bits and pieces I've done and hopefully get some input from you guys that are out there. Okay, here we go. I'd like to do that again. I'll do it again later. So that was the track, guys. Like I said, I've been given a bit of a crib sheet for this one. So this was supplied by the guy that charted out for me. So 2 pages, complete with tea stain. How very British. So it's in C minor. And there's, first of all, there's the one thing that struck me with this, and it happens a lot with me with tunes, is we get sort of place music in front of us and you have a listen through, and I really make a point of not having an instrument in my hand when I listen to stuff, because I think sometimes, particularly for me, and everyone's different, you know, but for me it's kind of, you tend to react with the instrument rather than your mind. Sounds a bit weird, but stick with me, trust me. Because when you're playing, we all kind of noodle and you hear stuff. But when you don't have an instrument to do that, you sort of channel it and you kind of sing lines and hum them. And there's a unison line that the keyboard part and the sax in that one's playing that opens. And it's a 16th note thing. Yeah. So really, breaking that down, it's like an E flat major scale. Remember, E flat major is the relative major. So the relative minor of E flat major is C minor. So we're in C minor. So the tonality is very much, there's a C minor voicing, or if you like. So it's actually an E flat major scale. Yeah, for the first three notes, 1, 2, 3, and then you go back to the one via the second, and then from the flat 7 of like a C minor 7th chord back up to the root note. So I've chosen to play that instinctively and with the thumb on the palm mute, and I'm using the old P bass for a bit of mojo, because you kind of listen to that record and it's kind of soulful. You can definitely hear gospel in it. So straight to the P bass, got other stuff, but straight to this, because it sounded right in my head. I know how this thing feels, you've got to fight it a little bit, but it's kind of nice. So there's that played with the palm mute, which I think sounds cool. And I could have done a number of things. I could have played it on the same string, which I should have done actually, because it's kind of even tone. But I played it sort of first position, if you like. And then it goes through this beautiful chord sequence, and there's some spaces in there, and what we call a guide track. It's very skeleton form. So there's just a drum kit in there, which in this case is samples, just to give it a bit more musicality than just a click. There's obviously a sax playing what I presume to be maybe a vocal line. And there's keys in there as well, which are helping to voice the chords and the harmony of the tune, so I can kind of do my thing. And it's always quite nice to play along with some instrumentation rather than just a click, because you get that sense of ebb and flow and musicality in your playing, and I prefer to do that, although just playing with a click and somebody shouting A section, B section is cool. Paul?
This is actually mixed.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
so it's a comp together loop of
yeah.
mix. Okay, so once again, guys, thanks for the info.
No, sorry, one other thing as well. Mix is actually coming in a couple of weeks' time to record this.
Right. So, all of you out there, Mig's the drummer, hashtag Mig's drums, okay? He is going to come in and replace this, although on this guide track it is actually splices of his grooves sampled up and cut up, fit to a grid to get a kind of outline feel for it. So, like I said, it is early doors. I mean, we could do it to a click and stuff, but it's always nice, something that gives you a little bit of a feel. So, like I said, it's about this space, and when you kind of get involved this early on in a tune, it's very easy to kind of play over it. But again, when you sit back without an instrument, you can kind of go, where are the spaces? And think in your head, okay, even listening to it for the first time through, you can go, yeah, it's definitely intro. Okay, that's definitely a verse. Well, that's a bridge linking to a chorus, and you kind of then get into what the songwriter's thinking or outlining at the very start, which is the fact that, it's sort of gospel pop, let's be commercial about this, because this is an industry that is getting tougher, but we want to remain current. So you kind of get all that in your head. So there's that line, back to the one, and there's space in between it. I could have filled it, but at the end of the day, I'm presuming that maybe there might be some vocal ad-libs, there might be some instrumentation in there, so if in doubt, leave it out. Beautiful. So then the main chord sequence kicks off. Now, part about our study as musicians is we gain influence from lots of other styles of music and also players. And what's really funny about this little chord sequence is famous jazz trumpeter, Mr. Freddie Hubbard. Okay, he did a great tune called Red Clay. Great chords. And there's an instrumental breakdown in the middle, which follows these, these chords have been stripped back a little bit from it, but the harmony is very simple, and it's a beautiful sort of turnaround that you can sort of think about as cycles of fourths. So it starts on the C minor 7th, goes down to a B flat minor 7th, then to A flat major 7th, and there's a real tasty chord in here, a G7, and it's altered in the fact that it's got a raised 5th. So it's got that E flat or the sharp 5, and this is a really cool thing with the key we're in. Think about it, my mind sometimes works at 100 miles an hour when I look at chords, and you're kind of, it's a little bit like maths, you're kind of carrying over flats and sounds throughout that sequence. So I'll try and voice it as best I can for you. There's a C minor 7th, A flat major 7th, and you've got that, you know, the major third of A flat is C. So again, think of that, those notes carrying. Now we could just play a G7, but by altering the harmony and adding in more notes, scrunch notes, we put in like an E flat on the top. Hear that one over the top of it? Because that is the minor third of our root key, which is C minor. You could also maybe put in a G7 with a flattened ninth, which is a nice chord. Listen to that one. So there's all these opportunities, and it's nice that the composer of this piece of music has actually thought about, you know, we could play just block chords, but I want a little bit more at some point. Now, throughout that whole section, I'm literally just playing the root notes. I'm literally looking at that chord sequence and going root note of C, root note of B flat, root note of A flat, root note of G. There's a little push or an anticipation into G, which is nice to pick up as well. Funny thing about that, I'm thinking commercially, there was a great album and a record out in 2004 by Jill Scott, and it's a track called Golden, off of, I think it was a second album, Beautifully Human, and it's got one of the greatest bass lines. If you don't know it, just check out that record, because it is so complex in how beautifully simple it is, because literally the guy is just doing exactly that. I think that was, what's his name? Harold the Jukebox Robinson, I do believe, on bass on that one. Beautiful. But he just anticipates the downbeat or the 1, 3, 4. Can you hear the little ghost note and the little anticipation? 3, 4. It's like gadung. So, you know, it's a tip of the hat to him. And remember, music is about all these influences we have and the things we hear coming through us, and it just felt right. You know, I could have played it all on the downbeats as it's written here. I've got sort of 2 2-beat notes filling up a 4-beat bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, but by putting that little anticipation, again, it emphasises the fact that the drummer's swinging. Yeah? Real interesting thing going back to that chord sequence. Sorry, geez, we're only in like bar 10 or something, but this is what it's all about. This is how kind of my mind works, and it's great that we've got this opportunity to share this kind of process with you guys. So, you know, please pile on the comments, and if we can, please subscribe. So, we can change this chord sequence. Okay, you can actually do a cycle of 4th, so from the B flat minor up to an E flat. Yeah? So there's an opportunity. I should have played that really in hindsight, but hey ho, I'm just thinking about it now. And that chord sequence kind of resolves itself back with a couple of cool chords, an F minor 7th to like a suspended chord, or it'd be voiced like F minor 11, where the actual root note's over a B flat. So the whole sequence. And back to the 1, or the root chord of this whole harmonic sequence, and it repeats it again. But I can do some stuff with that, you know, all the bits and pieces we've done using passing tones, and I use that a lot, walking up from the F minor to the B flat. Yeah, there's one note that doesn't belong there, harmonically speaking, if we're strict to a key signature here, and that's the A. You know, my chord sequence is a F minor 7 to B flat. Last time I checked, there's no A in F minor. But I'm using that passing tone of the A to get back to the B flat, and I could use another passing tone if I want, imply kind of a diminished harmony, to bring it back to C minor. And that's really the bulk of it. There is another section in there where I'm presuming it's kind of like a bridge, where I decided to sort of pedal some 8th notes. And there's a beautiful harmonic structure to this, where the composer Paul, he's kind of gone, right, there's my chords, but we can play some inversions in the bass guitar part. Okay, so the chords are from the root, C minor, another G7 altered chord, but this time over B, so it allows us to be chromatic. The harmony is actually voicing, yeah, that way, but C to G, 5th apart, it's a long interval, but being clever with the bass and with his chords and his understanding of harmony, it's like, what's the note that I can do to satisfy both of those chords, or the chord sequence, that are close together as possible. C, G over B in its simplest form, and then again we've got another one. We go back to the root note of a C minor 7, and then the composer's chosen in the bass part a B flat, which is the flattened 7th of the chord. So I've got this beautiful chromatic sequence. And then this next chord, okay, is another altered chord. I mean, I was hearing sort of F7 over A, but it's actually like a A7 sharp, which is, it's got some scrunchy harmony. Rotate again, F minor 7 to B flat, back to 1, yeah. In just when we were tracking it, Paul wanted some stuff, so there's kind of 8 bars of just kick and drum kit. So I thought, he said just play something, so I came up with a little figure. You know, and think about it, we did some lessons back a while back when it's about constructing bass lines and using the element of call and response. Call, respond, call, respond, yeah? You know, to turn around, get me back there, and it's kind of, I put that out to the people, let them digest it. Cool. Respond. Cool. Respond. Have that. And, you know, it's really made up of those 3 sections. And that was the first take I've done of it, you know, with that crib sheet as a sort of a roadmap to get me through it. And already I'm kind of thinking, what can we do? But constantly at the back of my mind, when I play these things for the first time, with a view to the fact that that's not how it's going to sound when it's mixed, when it's produced, when it's finished, when it's mastered, you know? Let's think about the song. Let's think about where the spaces are. Let's think about not overplaying in the verses. Let those notes breathe. You know? So we really underpin that harmony, but in the gaps, yeah, really enjoy that as well as leaning back on the beat a little bit. Okay guys, we're going to take sort of a 5-minute ad break, and then when we come back I'm going to give it another run through and sort of explain a little bit more about the tone choices I've made on the instrument. See you soon.
That was fucking amazing, man. That was absolutely brilliant. That was,